The medal was cold in his palm, always cold, no matter how long he held it. Commander Jacob Morrison sat on the edge of his bunk at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, turning the Bronze Star over in his weathered hands. 32 years. 32 years since his father pressed this same medal into his teenage palm and told him what it meant to carry other men's lives. The medal caught the pre-dawn light filtering through the barracks window. Tarnished now, the ribbon faded from deep blue to something closer to gray. Like everything else in his life, it had aged, worn down by time and the weight of too many memories. He was 58 years old, too old for this. His phone buzzed on the footlocker beside him. Emma, his daughter, 26 years old and still calling him before every mission like she was 6 and afraid of the dark. He picked up. "Dad," her voice carried that familiar mix of love and frustration. "You promised this was the last one." Morrison closed his eyes. "It is, sweetheart. Then I'm home. We'll finally do that fishing trip. You've been saying that for 26 years. She paused. He could hear her breathing, could picture her in her apartment in Raleigh, probably still in the scrubs from the night shift at the hospital. "I'll believe it when I see it." "Emma, I mean it, Dad. Mom waited for you to come home for 15 years. Then she got cancer and you weren't there for that either. You were in Afghanistan or Iraq or somewhere you couldn't tell me about." The words hit like shrapnel, clean through the vest, straight to the parts that were supposed to be protected. "I was there when it mattered," he said quietly. "Were you?" Emma's voice cracked. "Because I remember her funeral. I remember you standing there in your dress blues, looking like a statue. And then 3 days later, you shipped out again." Morrison opened his mouth, closed it. What could he say? She was right. He had been a statue, had stood at his wife Catherine's grave, and felt nothing because feeling anything would have broken him, and he had a mission in 72 hours and broken men got other men killed. "This is the last one," he repeated. "I'm putting in my papers. 32 years is enough." Emma was quiet for a long moment. "Come home, Dad. Please, just come home." "I will. I love you." "I love you too, sweetheart." He ended the call and sat in the silence. The medal was still in his other hand, still cold. Hospital Corpsman, 2nd Class, Thomas Morrison. Vietnam. Bronze Star with Valor. His father had earned it pulling 3 Marines out of a rice paddy under heavy fire in 1969. Had carried them through 200 meters of mud and bullets and brought them home alive. One of those Marines went on to massacre a village 6 months later. His father had told him that story the night before he died. Told him about the burden of being a guardian, about saving lives and never knowing if those lives were worth saving, about carrying that weight until it crushed you or you learned to set it down. Morrison had never learned to set it down. He placed the medal in his tactical vest pocket, the same pocket where it had ridden for 3 decades, through Mogadishu and Fallujah and Kandahar and 100 other places whose names were still classified, close to his heart, close enough to feel the weight with every breath. His gear was laid out on the bunk with the precision of 3 decades of habit. M4 carbine, Sig Sauer P226, 7 magazines, 40 rounds of 9mm, plate carrier, helmet, night vision, medical kit, the tools of his trade, the instruments of salvation or damnation depending on which side of the barrel you were standing. Last mission. He wanted to believe it. The briefing was at 0600. He checked his watch, 0530. Time to be someone else. Time to put on the armor that made him Commander Morrison instead of Jake, the man who missed his daughter's childhood and his wife's death because duty always came first. He stood, shouldered his gear, took one last look around the barracks that had been more of a home than any house he ever owned. Then he walked out into the North Carolina dawn to prepare for the mission that would either end his career or end him. He didn't know yet which one it would be. The briefing room smelled like old coffee and newer regrets. Morrison entered to find his team already assembled. 7 men, the best SEAL operators in Team 7. Men he had trained, led, bled with. Men who trusted him to bring them home. That trust was a weight heavier than any medal. Lieutenant Bradley stood at attention as Morrison entered. Second in command, 34 years old, sharp, professional, by the book. Sometimes too much by the book. But Morrison preferred that to cowboys who thought the rules didn't apply. "Commander?" Bradley nodded. "Lieutenant, everyone accounted for?" "Yes, sir, waiting on the brief." Morrison scanned the room. Petty Officer Ryan Hayes sat in the back row, phone in hand, showing pictures to the man beside him. Hayes was 24, youngest on the team. His wife was 7 months pregnant. He showed everyone those ultrasound pictures like they were classified intel he had just declassified. Morrison felt something twist in his chest. Hayes was the same age Emma had been when Catherine died. The same age Morrison had been when he enlisted. Young enough to think he was immortal, old enough to know better but too stubborn to care. Hayes, Morrison's voice cut through the quiet conversation. Put the phone away, eyes up. Yes, sir. Hayes pocketed the phone, but the grin stayed on his face. The kid was going to be a father. Nothing could touch that joy, not even a commander's bark. The door at the front of the room opened. Colonel James Reeves entered. Morrison's spine straightened reflexively. Reeves was 62, old guard, Vietnam era, though he had been too young to deploy. Son of a grunt who did 3 tours and came home with a Purple Heart and a drinking problem. Reeves had spent 40 years trying to live up to a father who died before he could. Morrison understood that burden intimately. Gentlemen, Reeves moved to the podium. What I'm about to brief is classified top secret. No notes, no recordings. Clear? A chorus of affirmatives. Reeves clicked the remote. The screen behind him lit up with a satellite image of a compound somewhere dusty and hostile. Syria, probably. They all looked the same from orbit. Target is a high-value individual known as the Architect. Real name unknown, unknown, nationality unknown. What we know is he's been coordinating attacks across 3 countries. 17 American casualties in the last 6 months traced back to his network. Another click. The screen showed a grainy photograph of a man in tactical gear, face obscured. Could have been anyone. Intelligence indicates he's operating out of this compound in northern Syria. Light security, 5 to 10 hostile personnel. Your mission is capture or kill, preferably capture. We want to interrogate him. Morrison studied the image. Something felt off. The compound was too exposed, too obvious. If this architect was as sophisticated as the brief suggested, why would he operate somewhere a satellite could photograph him? Sir, Morrison raised his hand. What's the confidence level on this intelligence? Reeves met his eyes. High confidence, multiple sources, SIGINT, human, all corroborated. And exfil? Helicopter standing by. You'll have close air support. In and out. Should be routine. Morrison had been doing this long enough to know that the word routine was a red flag the size of Texas. Rules of engagement? Positive ID before engaging. Target is capture priority but lethal force authorized if threatened. Minimize civilian casualties. Standard ROE. Standard. Nothing about this felt standard. The screen changed again, this time showing the mission roster. 8 names, 7 SEALs, and 1 other. Captain Sarah Bennett, JSOC attached, Overwatch and Reconnaissance. Morrison's jaw tightened. He knew that name, knew it like he knew his own, had spent 10 years trying to forget it and failing every single day. Captain Bennett will insert 18 hours prior to your team, Reeves continued. She'll establish Overwatch and provide real-time intelligence. Her call sign is Phoenix. She is observe and report only. Under no circumstances is she to engage unless you are in immediate danger and request support. Is that clear? Morrison said nothing. Across the room, Bradley frowned. Sir, with respect, a single sniper in Overwatch is an unusual allocation for a straightforward capture operation. It's a precaution, Lieutenant. Captain Bennett is one of JSOC's best. Consider her insurance. Insurance. Morrison wondered if Reeves knew. Wondered if the colonel had done his homework. Wondered if this whole mission was engineered specifically to put him in a room with the woman whose career he had almost destroyed 25 years ago. No, that was paranoia. Had to be. Any questions? Reeves looked around the room. Hayes raised his hand. Sir, what's the civilian population in the target area? Minimal. Compound is isolated, but maintain positive identification protocols. Yes, sir. Reeves clicked off the screen. You insert at 0400 tomorrow. That gives you 24 hours to prep. Equipment check at 1400, final brief at 2200, dismissed. The team filed out. Morrison stayed in his seat. Reeves noticed. Something else, Commander? Captain Bennett. What about her? I'd like to request a different Overwatch asset. Reeves raised an eyebrow. Why? Personal reasons. Care to elaborate? Morrison weighed his options. Telling the truth meant admitting to history he had spent decades burying. Lying meant going into a combat zone with unresolved tension that could get people killed. He chose the third option, silence. Reeves studied him for a long moment. Commander, I'm aware of your history with Captain Bennett. I'm also aware that she's the best sniper in JSOC, and you're the best team leader in SEAL Team 7. This mission requires both of you. Whatever personal issues exist, you're professionals. Act like it. Yes, sir. Is there anything else? Morrison thought about asking the real questions. Why did this feel like a setup? Why was the intelligence too clean? Why was he being paired with a woman he had wronged a quarter century ago on what was supposed to be his final mission? He asked none of them. No, sir, nothing else. Then go prep your team. And Commander? Reeves's voice stopped him at the door. Come home, all of you. That's an order. Morrison nodded and walked out. Come home, as if it were that simple. As if home was a place instead of a collection of people who stopped waiting for you years ago. Arlington National Cemetery was quiet the way only graveyards can be. Morrison stood in front of a white headstone in Section 60, hands clasped behind his back, trying to remember what his father's voice sounded like. Hospital Corpsman, 2nd Class Thomas Morrison, January 14, 1948 to August 3, 1978. Bronze Star, Purple Heart, beloved husband and father. The dates were wrong, not factually wrong. His father had died on August 3, 1978, but he had really died years before that. Died in a rice paddy in Vietnam in 1970 when he pulled 3 Marines out of the mud and realized one of them was a monster. The cancer had just made it official. Dad, Morrison's voice was quiet, almost a whisper. One more op, then I'm done. 32 years, just like you wanted. The headstone said nothing. Stone never did. Emma called this morning. She's angry. Has a right to be. I was a terrible father, just like you were. That felt wrong the moment he said it. His father had not been terrible. His father had been haunted. There was a difference. No, that's not fair. You were there when it mattered. Taught me to shoot, taught me to fish, taught me that being a man meant carrying weight for people who couldn't carry it themselves. The morning sun climbed higher. Other visitors moved through the rows of white stones. An old woman placing flowers. A young man in army dress blues standing at attention. A child too young to understand death asking why Grandpa was sleeping underground. You told me something before you died, the night before. You were so weak you could barely talk. But you grabbed my hand and you said, Jake, I need to tell you something about Vietnam. Morrison had been 12 years old, had sat beside that hospital bed and listened to his father confess something that still gave him nightmares 4 decades later. The memory came back sharp as shrapnel. His father's voice, papery thin, barely audible over the beep of monitors. The men I saved, Jake. Some of them went on to do terrible things. Young Jake had frowned. What do you mean? There was a Marine, Corporal Davis, took 3 rounds in the chest. I pulled him out of a rice paddy, carried him 200 meters under fire. He lived because of me. That's good, Dad. You're a hero. No. His father's grip had tightened. 6 months later, Davis was part of a platoon that massacred a village. Women, children, everyone. It was in the papers. I saw his name and I knew. But that wasn't your fault, wasn't it? His father's eyes had been hollow. I saved his life. He used that life to kill innocents. If I had let him die in that rice paddy, those villagers would still be alive. You didn't know what he would do. That's the burden, son. His father had pulled him closer. You save lives. You don't get to choose what they do with them. You carry them all, the good ones and the bad ones, every single one, until the weight crushes you or you learn to live with it. How do you live with it? His father had smiled then, sad and small and broken. I haven't figured that out yet. But if you become a warrior, you'll have to. Promise me, Jake. Promise me you'll find a way to carry it better than I did. Morrison had promised. He had lied. He carried the weight the same way his father had, crushed beneath it, pretending he was strong enough when every day proved he was not. I saved 89 men, Dad. Morrison spoke to the headstone. Lost 14. Every single one of them I carry. The ones I saved and the ones I lost, just like you taught me. A breeze moved through the cemetery. Somewhere a flag snapped against its pole. But I don't know anymore if I'm saving them or just delaying the inevitable. Hayes is 24, has a baby on the way, but Dr. If I bring him home from Syria, is he going to die in Yemen next year, or Somalia, or some other desert that needs American blood? The stone had no answers. There's a woman on this mission, Captain Sarah Bennett. You never met her. I knew her 25 years ago. She wanted to be a SEAL. Well, not a SEAL. Women couldn't be SEALs back then. But she wanted to serve in special operations. She was the best candidate I ever evaluated. Top scores in everything. PT, marksmanship, land nav, tactical decision-making. She was perfect. Morrison's voice caught, and I voted against her. He said it out loud for the first time in 25 years. Spoke the sin to someone who could not judge him because the dead were beyond judgment. The board asked me if I thought she could do the job. I said no. Said women didn't have the upper body strength. Said it was biology, not bias, but that was a lie, Dad. I was scared. He closed his eyes. 3 months before that board, I was in Mogadishu. My teammate Martinez took an RPG blast. He was 210 pounds with gear. I had to carry him 400 meters to the extract point. He died in my arms before we made it. And when I sat on that board and looked at Lieutenant Sarah Bennett, all I could think was, can she carry Martinez? Can she haul a full-grown man in body armor through a firefight? I didn't think about whether she could shoot, or think, or lead. I just thought about upper body strength, and I voted no. The admission hung in the air like smoke. She proved me wrong, spent the next 25 years proving me wrong, rose to captain, became one of JSOC's best snipers, did everything I said she couldn't do. And tomorrow I'm going into a combat zone with her, and she's going to save my life, or I'm going to save hers. And either way, we're going to have to deal with the fact that I tried to end her career before it started. Morrison opened his eyes. The sun was higher now, the shadows shorter. I don't know how to fix it, Dad. Don't know how to carry this one, but I'm going to try because that's what you taught me. We carry them all, even the ones that hurt. He touched the headstone, cool marble under his palm. I'm tired, so tired, but this is the last one, I promise. After Syria, I'm done. I'm going to learn to set down the weight. I'm going to go fishing with Emma. I'm going to figure out how to be someone other than Commander Morrison. I'm going to learn how to be just Jake again. He stood there a moment longer. Then he saluted, sharp and proper, the way his father had taught him. And he walked away from Section 60 carrying the weight of 89 men he had saved and 14 men he had lost and 1 woman he had wronged and a father who had never learned to set down his own burden. The weight was crushing, but he carried it anyway, because that was what Guardians did. Sarah Bennett's apartment was exactly what Morrison expected. Spartan, functional, the home of someone who was never really home. She opened the door at his knock, surprise flickering across her face before professionalism replaced it. She was 35 now, older than when he had last seen her up close, lines around her eyes that had not been there before, the kind of lines that came from squinting through rifle scopes in bad light. Commander Morrison, her voice was neutral. This is unexpected. May I come in? She hesitated, then stepped aside. The apartment was small, 1 bedroom, kitchen with a breakfast bar, living room with a couch and nothing else. No pictures on the walls, no personal touches. It could have been a hotel room, except for the photographs on the refrigerator. Morrison saw them and stopped. A young boy, maybe 7 or 8, dark hair, serious eyes. In one photo, he was holding a baseball bat. In another, he was blowing out birthday candles. Your son, it was not a question. Dylan, Sarah's voice softened, saying the name. He's 8. He lives with you? With his father, Mark. We divorced 4 years ago. I get him summers and holidays when I'm not deployed. When she was not deployed, which meant she almost never got him. Morrison understood that way too. Commander, why are you here? Sarah moved to the kitchen, started making coffee without asking if he wanted any. We have a brief in 14 hours. I wanted to talk, before the mission. About what? About 25 years ago, about the selection board. Sarah's hands paused on the coffee pot. That's ancient history. Is it? I'm a captain in JSOC. You're a commander in SEAL Team 7. We both ended up where we needed to be, water under the bridge. You said that at the briefing. I didn't believe you then either. Sarah turned to face him. What do you want me to say, Commander? That I was angry? I was. That I felt betrayed? I did. That I spent 10 years trying to prove you wrong? Guilty. But I'm not that lieutenant anymore. I'm not angry. I'm not trying to prove anything. I'm a professional operator doing a job. And so are you. So let's just do the job and leave the past in the past. Morrison nodded slowly. Fair enough. Is that all? No, he met her eyes. I was wrong. 25 years ago, I was wrong. Sarah set down the coffee pot. Why are you telling me this now? Because this is my last mission. After Syria, I'm putting in my papers. 32 years is enough, and I don't want to retire carrying the weight of what I did to you. You didn't do anything to me. You voted your conscience. I voted my fear. There's a difference. Sarah crossed her arms. What were you afraid of? That you would get hurt and it would be my fault. That I would send you downrange and you would come home in a box and I would have to live with knowing I put you there. So you tried to keep me from going at all? Yes. That's not protection, Commander. That's control. Morrison absorbed the hit. She was right. He had tried to control something he had no right to control, had wrapped his fear in the language of standards and requirements in biology, had told himself he was protecting her when really he was protecting himself from the possibility of guilt. You're right, he said it simply. I'm sorry. Sarah studied him for a long moment. I forgive you. Just like that? Just like that. She turned back to the coffee. You were wrong. You admitted it. You apologized. What else is there? I thought you would be angrier. I was. For years, but anger takes energy and I need that energy for other things. She poured 2 cups, handed him one. You trained me after I got cleared. 10 years ago, you remember? I remember. You were harder on me than anyone else. Pushed me until I thought I would break. I hated you for it. I know, but you were also the best instructor I ever had. You taught me things that have kept me alive in places where I should have died. You taught me to be a sniper, a real one. Not just someone who can shoot, but someone who can think and adapt and survive. She took a sip of coffee. So yes, you voted against me. And yes, you were wrong, but you also made me better. And that counts for something. Morrison felt something loosen in his chest. Not forgiveness, not quite, but something close to it. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. We still have to survive Syria. You'll be in Overwatch, low risk. Sarah smiled. Commander, we both know there's no such thing as low risk. Not in our line of work. She was right about that too. They drank their coffee in silence. Outside, Fort Bragg went about its business. Soldiers training, officers briefing, the machinery of war grinding forward like it always did. Can I ask you something? Sarah set down her cup. Anything. Why is this your last mission? 32 years is a long career, but you're still operational. You could do another 5 years easy. Morrison thought about how to answer, thought about Emma's voice on the phone that morning, thought about Catherine's grave and his father's confession, and the weight of 89 men saved and 14 lost. Because I'm tired, he said finally. Tired of carrying the weight. Tired of sending young men like Hayes into places where they might not come home. Tired of being Commander Morrison instead of just Jake. Who's Jake? I'm not sure anymore, but I'd like to find out. Sarah nodded. I understand that. Do you? You're only 35. You have years left. And a son who barely knows me. An ex-husband who remarried someone who's there for Dylan's baseball games and parent-teacher conferences. I'm the mom who shows up twice a year with presents and excuses. Her voice was steady, but Morrison heard the pain beneath it. This is my last mission too, Commander. After Syria, I'm going home. For real this time. I'm going to be a mom instead of a guardian. Does Dylan know? Not yet. I'll tell him after. If I tell him before and something happens. She trailed off. Morrison understood. You did not make promises you might not be able to keep. We'll both make it home, he said. I'll make sure of it. You can't promise that. No, but I can try. Sarah smiled, small and sound and real. That's all any of us can do. They finished their coffee. Morrison stood to leave. At the door, Sarah stopped him. Commander, Jake, whatever happens in Syria, I want you to know something. What? I'm not angry anymore about the vote, about anything. You were trying to do the right thing even if you did it wrong. That counts for something. Morrison nodded. Same to you? About everything. He left the apartment and walked back to his quarters as the sun set over Fort Bragg. Tomorrow they would go to war. Tonight they were just 2 people trying to figure out how to carry the weight a little bit longer. Just until they could finally set it down. The infiltration was textbook. Sarah and her spotter, Sergeant First Class Maria Torres, Halo jumped from 30,000 feet into the Syrian night. Black canopies against a black sky. Invisible to radar. Silent as death. They landed 3 kilometers from the compound. Buried their chutes. Moved through the darkness with night vision turning the world green and grainy. Torres was 29, Mexican-American from El Paso. Former Army Ranger who had transferred to JSOC 3 years ago. The best spotter Sarah had ever worked with. They communicated in hand signals and shared glances. Did not need words. The infiltration took 4 hours. Moving slowly, checking every step, avoiding the roads where local fighters might patrol. This was not friendly territory, not remotely. They reached the compound at 0200, 18 hours before Morrison's team would insert. Sarah had expected a hardened position. Walls, watchtowers, security patrols. What she found was worse. Torres. She kept her voice to a whisper. Count. Torres studied the compound through her spotting scope. I count 42 hostiles. No, 47. Sarah's stomach dropped. Intel said 5 to 10. Intel was wrong. Sarah keyed her radio, encrypted channel back to Overwatch. Phoenix to Overwatch, be advised. Intelligence mismatch. I count 47 hostiles at target location. Request abort or mission modification. She waited, radio silence stretched. Then Colonel Reeves's voice crackled back. Phoenix, Overwatch, confirmed count. Confirmed, sir. 47 hostiles, multiple technical vehicles, heavy weapons visible. This is not a light security detail. Another pause. Phoenix, SEALs are committed. Mission continues. You observe and report only. Acknowledge. Sarah felt ice in her veins. Sir, this is an ambush waiting to happen. 8 operators against 47 is suicide math. Phoenix, your orders are reconnaissance. You will observe and report. You will not engage unless absolutely necessary. Acknowledge. Torres looked at her, waiting. Sarah closed her eyes, opened them. Phoenix acknowledges. She ended the transmission. Ma'am? Torres' voice was tight. They're sending Morrison's team into a kill box. I know. What do we do? Sarah studied the compound. Found what she was looking for. 3rd floor of a half-collapsed building on the northern perimeter. Overlooked the entire complex, perfect hide position. We take Overwatch, and when it goes bad, we make sure Morrison comes home. That's against orders. I know that too. Torres smiled, fierce and hard. Good. I hate watching good men die. They moved to the building, climbed 3 stories of crumbling concrete and rebar, set up their hide position with the precision of hundreds of operations. Sarah's rifle was a masterpiece. M110A SAS, semi-automatic sniper system, chambered in 7.62 millimeter. Schmidt and Bender scope, suppressor that reduced the crack to a whisper. 20-round magazine. She had 10 magazines, 200 rounds of match-grade ammunition. Torres set up the spotting scope beside her. M151, more powerful magnification than Sarah's rifle scope. Used to read wind, calculate range, identify targets. Range to compound center? Sarah asked. Torres checked. 280 meters. Wind? 3 knots from the east. Variable. Sarah made mental calculations. At 280 meters, a 3-knot crosswind would push her round maybe 4 inches left. She could compensate. Torres, I need you to do something for me. Ma'am, if I engage, if I break orders and start shooting, you make sure they know it was my call, not yours. You were following my lead, understand? Torres was quiet, then, with respect, ma'am, fuck that. We're in this together. Sarah smiled despite everything. Thanks. Don't mention it. Now let's get comfortable. We have a long wait. 6 hours. Sarah had been in this position for 6 hours. Her body was a study in stillness, breathing slow, heart rate calm, eyes scanning the compound through the scope. The enemy was professional, rotating guards, checking corners. These were not farmers with AK-47s. These were trained fighters. At 0355, she saw them. 8 shadows moving through the darkness outside the compound wall. Morrison's team, right on schedule. Sarah's finger moved to her radio transmit button. Keyed it 3 times. 3 quick clicks. The abort signal. The warning that meant danger, turn back, mission compromised. Nothing. She tried again. 3 clicks, then 3 more. Static. Torres looked at her. They're not receiving. Jamming, or they're ignoring the warning. Either way, Morrison and his team were committed. Sarah watched through her scope as they approached the wall. Morrison in the lead, moving with the confidence of 3 decades of experience. He had no idea he was walking into a trap. The SEALs breached the wall with explosive charges, small detonations, precise. They flowed through the gap in perfect formation. And that was when the compound exploded with gunfire. Hostiles poured out of buildings Sarah had not even realized were occupied. From rooftops, from alleys, from positions that had been prepared and waiting. 50 men with automatic weapons opening fire on 8. Sarah watched Morrison's team react. Professional, disciplined, fighting toward a defensive position in a 2-story building. She saw one of them go down. Young, Hayes probably. The kid with the pregnant wife. Morrison dragged him to cover. The radio came alive. Morrison's voice, strained but controlled. Overwatch, this is Trident 4. We are compromised. 50 plus hostiles. Request immediate quick reaction force. Colonel Reeves responded. Negative Trident 4. No QRF available. Hold your position. Extraction in 40 minutes. Sir, we don't have 40 minutes. Hold your position, Commander. That is an order. Sarah felt her hands tighten on her rifle. Morrison's team was dying. She could save them. She had the skills, the position, the ammunition. But orders were orders. She thought about her son Dylan, 8 years old, blowing out birthday candles. If she did this, if she broke orders and engaged, her career was over. Court-martial, dishonorable discharge, maybe prison. She would lose everything. But if she did nothing, Morrison died. Hayes died. 7 men with families and futures died while she watched through a scope and did nothing. Torres whispered, "Ma'am, we have to do something. Orders are observe only." "Fuck orders. Morrison trained you. He's dying down there." Sarah watched through her scope. Morrison was firing his rifle, protecting Hayes. The young SEAL was hit bad, bleeding. Morrison had him behind cover, but it would not be enough. 47 enemies, 8 defenders. Math that ended only one way. She thought about 25 years ago, about Morrison voting against her, about the reasons he had been wrong, but also the reasons he had done it. He had been trying to protect her, misguided, controlling, but trying. Now she could protect him, or she could follow orders and watch him die. Sarah made her decision. "Torres, find me targets." Torres grinned. "Yes, ma'am. Target 1, enemy commander, 270 meters. Behind the low wall, you're 10 o'clock. Sarah found him in her scope, male, 40-something, directing the assault with hand signals. Professional, trained. She centered the crosshairs on his chest, controlled her breathing, let her heart rate slow. "Phoenix to Overwatch." She keyed the radio one last time. "I have eyes on Trident 4, engaging to preserve American lives." Colonel Reeves's voice exploded through the speaker. "Phoenix, you are ordered to stand down. Do not engage. Do not." Sarah switched off the radio. "Torres, wind, 3 knots east, range 270, target stationary." Sarah's finger moved to the trigger. Gentle pressure, like holding something precious and fragile. This shot would end her career, would end everything she had built for 25 years. Captain Bennett would cease to exist. She would become the operator who disobeyed orders, who went rogue, who got court-martialed and drummed out. But Morrison would live. Hayes would live. 7 men would go home to their families. Dylan would have a mother who was dishonorably discharged, but he would have a mother. That was enough. Sarah squeezed the trigger. The rifle coughed. Suppressed crack, barely louder than a cough. 270 meters away, the enemy commander collapsed like someone cut his strings, dead before he knew he had been shot. Sarah worked the bolt, chambered another round with mechanical precision. Target 2. Torres did not hesitate. Fighter, right side, moving between positions, 285 meters. You're 2 o'clock. Sarah found him, led him by half a body length to compensate for his movement. Squeezed. The rifle spoke again. The fighter went down. 2 down, Sarah said quietly. 45 remaining. Morrison's voice came over the radio. Different frequency. SEAL team channel. "Who the hell is engaging?" Sarah keyed the radio. "Trident 4, this is Phoenix. I have you. Hold position." Silence. Then Morrison's voice. Shocked. "Bennett, you're supposed to observe only." "Plans change, Commander. You taught me that. You're ending your career." "Better my career than your life. Now shut up and let me work." Sarah shifted aim, found the next target, fired. 3 down, 44 remaining. Behind her rifle, Sarah Bennett smiled. Cold, professional, deadly. She had made her choice. Now she was going to save every single one of them, or die trying. Morrison crouched behind the concrete barrier and tried to process what was happening. Somewhere out in the darkness, Sarah Bennett was systematically eliminating hostiles with the kind of precision that defied belief. 4 down, 5, 6. Enemy fighters were falling, and none of them understood why. They saw their comrades dropping, but in the chaos of the firefight, they could not identify the source. Hayes was on the ground beside Morrison, conscious, hurting. Shrapnel in his leg from an RPG that had detonated close. Too close. "Commander," Hayes' voice was tight with pain. "Who is that?" "The guardian angel I didn't know we had." 7 down, 8. The enemy was starting to panic. Morrison saw it in their movements. The way they pulled back from advanced positions, sought better cover, stopped pressing the assault. Sarah's voice came through his earpiece. Calm, professional, like she was ordering coffee instead of conducting a combat operation against impossible odds. "Trident 4, this is Phoenix. Your 9 o'clock position has 3 machine gun nests. I'm eliminating them now. When they're down, you have a 30-second window to reposition to the northeast corner. Acknowledge. Morrison looked at his team. 5 men still combat effective. Hayes wounded but alive. They were holding but barely. Phoenix, Trident 4 actual. Copy all. Who the hell are you? Someone who doesn't want to watch you die, Commander. Stand by for suppression. Morrison heard the shots. 3 suppressed cracks in rapid succession. Through the chaos, he saw 3 machine gunners slump over their weapons. Trident 4, you're clear. Move now. Morrison grabbed Hayes. Everyone, tactical displacement. Northeast corner. Move. His team executed the maneuver with practiced precision, moving fast and low while Sarah kept suppressive fire on anyone who tried to track them. They reached the better position, consolidated, redistributed ammunition. Morrison keyed his radio. Phoenix, position secure. How many have you eliminated? 15, 32 remaining. 15. She had killed 15 enemy fighters in less than 10 minutes from concealment. Morrison had seen a lot of shooting in 32 years. This was something else entirely. Hayes grabbed his arm. Commander, look. Morrison followed his pointing finger, saw something that made his blood run cold. A face he recognized, a face that should have been dead for 15 years. Daniel Cross, his best friend, his brother, the man he had carried guilt about since Afghanistan 2009, standing in the compound directing the enemy assault. Alive. Morrison's world tilted. No, his voice was barely a whisper. That's not possible. But it was Cross, older, scarred, changed, but unmistakably him. And he was leading the people trying to kill Morrison's team. Sarah's voice cut through his shock. Trident 4, I have visual on your HVT. Identifying. Phoenix, hold fire. Do not engage the HVT. I repeat, do not engage. Commander? That's Daniel Cross. He's one of ours. Was one of ours. I need to understand what's happening before anyone takes a shot. Silence on the radio, then Sarah again. Understood. Continuing suppression on hostiles. But Commander, if he's a threat to your team, I'm taking the shot. Morrison watched Cross move through the compound. Watched him direct fighters with U.S. military hand signals. Watched him coordinate an assault on American operators with the precision of someone who had been trained to do exactly that. His brother had not just survived Afghanistan, he had defected. Morrison's hand moved to his radio. Different frequency. One he hoped Cross would still monitor. Old teammate emergency channel. Cross, Daniel, this is Morrison. I know you can hear me. Static. Then a voice he had not heard in 15 years. Jake, brother, long time. Morrison closed his eyes. What happened to you? I woke up, realized we were fighting the wrong war. You're killing Americans. I'm killing the machine, the system, the people who used us and threw us away. Daniel, whatever happened, we can fix it. Come in, surrender. We'll figure this out. Cross laughed, hard and bitter. There's no fixing this, Jake. You're here to kill me. Orders from people who want me dead because I know too much. That's not true, isn't it? Ask yourself, why is your last mission before retirement against your old teammate? Why is Captain Bennett in Overwatch with orders to eliminate an HVT she won't be told to CI? Morrison felt something cold settle in his gut. What are you talking about? This is a cleanup operation, Jake. I'm not the target, you are. You and Bennett both. Old warriors who know too much. They're using her to kill me, and then someone else will kill both of you. That's how it works. You're lying. Am I? Then why did they send you in with bad intelligence? Why are there 50 fighters when you were told there'd be 5? Why is Bennett breaking orders to save you? Morrison had no answer. Cross continued. I requested this mission, Jake. I wanted you here to show you the truth about what they do to operators like us. What truth? That we're weapons, useful until we're not. Then we're liabilities to be eliminated. Morrison's radio crackled. Different voice. Colonel Reeves. Trident 4, Phoenix. You are both ordered to eliminate HVT immediately. Authorization code Tango Charlie 47, confirm. Morrison stared at his radio. Authorization code Tango Charlie 47. Kill order. No capture. No interrogation. Eliminate. He looked across the compound at Cross. His brother. His friend. The man he had mourned for 15 years. Sarah's voice. Commander, I don't have a shot. Target is using cover effectively. Need you to create a distraction. Morrison made a decision that would change everything. Phoenix, stand down. Do not engage Cross. Commander? That's an order, Captain. We're taking him alive. Reeves's voice cut through. Commander Morrison, you are relieved of command. Lieutenant Bradley, you have operational authority. Complete the mission. Morrison looked at his second in command. Bradley had his weapon ready. Professional. By the book. Bradley, stand down. Sir, I have orders. And I'm giving you different ones. Bradley's rifle started to move, not toward the enemy, toward Morrison. And that was when Morrison understood. Bradley was not his second in command. Bradley was his executioner. I'm sorry, Commander. Bradley's voice was steady. I have my orders. Young Hayes saw it. The kid with the pregnant wife saw Bradley's rifle turning, saw what was about to happen. Hayes threw himself between them. Bradley fired 3 times. Center mass. Hayes took all 3 rounds. Morrison caught him as he fell. Ryan, no. Stay with me, son. Hayes looked up at him, blood on his lips. Commander, tell my wife, tell my baby. You'll tell them yourself. Stay with me. You're a good man. Don't let them make you doubt that. Hayes' eyes went distant, fixed, empty. He was 24 years old. He died in Morrison's arms while Morrison whispered lies about how he would be okay. Sarah's voice, cold as winter, target acquired. Bradley was turning his rifle toward Morrison again. Sarah's rifle spoke once. Bradley's head snapped back. He dropped without a sound. Morrison held Hayes' body and felt something inside him shatter. 32 years, 89 men saved, 15 lost. Hayes had been 15, and he had died protecting Morrison from one of his own men. Sarah's voice crackled through the radio. Trident 4, hostile neutralized. Are you intact? Morrison looked at Hayes, at the kid who would never meet his daughter, who would never hold his wife again, who had died because Morrison had walked into a trap. No, Bennett, I'm not intact. Cross's voice cut through on the emergency channel. Now you know, Jake. They'll kill us all to keep this quiet. But you don't have to go quiet. You can go loud. Morrison set Hayes' body down gently, closed the kid's eyes. He picked up his rifle. Torres, Sarah's voice. New target. Range? Morrison keyed his radio. Phoenix, what's your ammo status? 115 rounds remaining. Can you keep them suppressed while we extract Cross? Commander, are you serious? Deadly serious. Cross is coming with us. We're going to find out the truth, and then we're going to burn this whole thing down. Reeves's voice exploded through the radio. Commander Morrison, Captain Bennett, you are both considered hostile. Airstrike authorized on your position. You have 10 minutes. Morrison looked at his team. 6 men left alive, all of them looking at him, waiting for orders. He thought about his father, about the Bronze Star in his pocket, about what it meant to be a guardian. Sometimes being a guardian meant protecting people from the very system you served. Everyone who's mobile, move now. We're extracting Cross, we're getting evidence, and we're going to expose every person who sent us here to die. His team did not hesitate, did not question. They followed him, because that was what SEALs did. They followed their commander into hell, and they trusted him to bring them back out. The radio crackled one more time. Sarah's voice. Commander, Jake, I'm with you. Whatever happens, I'm with you. Morrison smiled, grim and hard. Then let's go to be the kind of trouble that changes everything, Captain. Behind him, the compound erupted in flames. Ahead of him, the truth waited. And somewhere in the darkness, Sarah Bennett put her eye to her scope and prepared to save them all one more time. The last Guardians, standing against the night, ready to burn it all down or die trying. The world narrowed to crosshairs and breathing. Sarah Bennett settled into the rhythm that had kept her alive through 12 years of warfare. Inhale for 4 counts. Exhale for 4, heart rate dropping, 58 beats per minute, 55. The number that meant her body had accepted what her mind already knew. She was committed now, no going back. Torres fed her target as with mechanical precision. Fighter, southeast corner, 290 meters, carrying RPG. Sarah found him through her scope. Male, 30s, loading a rocket-propelled grenade with practiced hands. That weapon could destroy the building where Morrison's team had taken shelter. Could kill everyone inside with a single shot. She centered the crosshairs on his chest, accounted for wind, distance, the slight downward angle of her position. Squeezed. The rifle coughed, suppressed but not silent, a sound like a door closing in an empty house. The fighter collapsed. The RPG clattered to the ground unfired. 16 down, Sarah said, 31 remaining. Torres was already scanning for the next threat. Machine gunner, north wall, 300 meters exactly, suppressing Morrison's position. Sarah shifted her aim, found the gunner behind his heavy weapon, watched him pour fire into the building where 6 men were fighting for their lives. She put a round through the sandbags he thought would protect him. 7.62 millimeter penetrators did not care about improvised fortifications. The bullet punched through sand and fabric and found flesh on the other side. The machine gun went silent. 17 down. Morrison's voice crackled through her earpiece. Phoenix, you're giving us breathing room. Can you identify the HVT? I need to know if Cross is still in the compound. Sarah scanned the chaos below. Fighters running, taking cover, dying. And there, directing the defense from behind a concrete wall, she saw him. The man Morrison called Cross. The ghost who was supposed to be dead. She zoomed in, studied his face through the scope's magnification. Late 40s, scarred, hard. He moved like someone who had spent decades in combat. American-style tactics, U.S. military bearing. He was not looking at Morrison's position. He was looking directly at her building. Sarah's breath caught. Cross smiled, waved, like he had known exactly where she was the entire time. Then he disappeared behind cover. Commander confirmed visual on Cross. He knows I'm here. He's adapting. Morrison swore. Can you maintain position? Negative. I need to relocate. They're going to start putting fire on this building. As if summoning it with her words, bullets began impacting the walls around her, not random spray. Aimed fire, concentrated on her floor, her section of the building. Someone down there had finally figured out where the angel of death was perched. Torres were moving. Secondary position, now. They broke down their hide in 30 seconds. Sarah secured her rifle. Torres grabbed the spotting scope and their gear. They moved through the ruined building with the speed of people who understood that hesitation meant dying. 20 meters east. Different room, different angle, different line of sight. They were re-establishing position when Sarah heard it. The distinct rumble of an engine. Heavy, powerful, coming fast. She moved to the window, looked down. A technical pickup truck with a mounted machine gun, 50 caliber. The kind of weapon that could tear through concrete and steel and flesh with equal indifference. It was racing toward Morrison's position. Trident 4, technical inbound, 50 cal. That gun will shred your building. Morrison's response was immediate. Can you stop it? I can try. Sarah brought her rifle up, found the technical through her scope. It was moving fast, maybe 40 kilometers per hour, weaving between obstacles. Driver was her best bet. Kill him and the vehicle became uncontrolled. Crash it before the gunner could bring that weapon to bear. She tracked the movement, led the target, calculated the intercept point. Her finger moved to the trigger. And the rifle jammed. The bolt failed to seat. The round hung half-chambered, a malfunction that should not happen with match-grade ammunition and a weapon she maintained with religious devotion. But it happened. Time became elastic, stretched. The technical was closing on Morrison. 5 seconds until the gunner had line of sight. 4 seconds until that 50 cal opened fire and turned the building into a death trap. 3 seconds. Sarah's training took over. Immediate action drill, tap the magazine, rack the bolt. Assess. 2 seconds. The round chambered. She brought the scope to her eye. 1 second. The driver's head filled her reticle. She squeezed without conscious thought. Pure muscle memory. The shot that had been trained into her nervous system through 10,000 repetitions. The rifle fired. The driver's head snapped back. The technical swerved violently. Dead man's weight on the steering wheel. The vehicle careened into a concrete wall at full speed. Metal crumpled. The gunner was thrown from the truck bed. He hit the ground hard, stunned but alive. Sarah was already tracking him. Second shot before he could recover. Before he could bring that weapon to bear on anyone else. He stopped moving. Technical neutralized, she reported. Her voice was steady, but her hands were shaking. The adrenaline dumped from the malfunction, from the near miss. She was not superhuman, not immune to fear. She was just very good at functioning through it. Torres touched her shoulder. Ma'am, you okay? I'm fine. Find me more targets. Captain? Torres' voice was gentle, concerned. Your hands are shaking. I know. I'll deal with it later. Right now, Morrison needs us. Torres studied her for a moment, then nodded. Target, rooftop, 400 meters, sniper position. Sarah's blood went cold. Say again? Sniper, enemy sniper, 400 meters, northeast rooftop. He's setting up on Morrison's position. A counter sniper, professional, trained, someone who understood what Sarah was doing and had come prepared to stop her. This changed everything. Sarah scanned the rooftop Torres had identified, found the position, saw the telltale glint of a scope catching light. I see him. Ma'am, he's good. That's a concealed position. Perfect angle on the SEAL team. Sarah watched through her scope. The enemy sniper was settling in, taking his time. Professional patience. He would wait for the perfect shot, wait for Morrison or one of his men to expose themselves for a fraction of a second. Then he would kill them. She could engage him now, take a shot before he was fully set up. But at 400 meters with variable wind and an elevated target, the probability of a first-round hit was maybe 60%. If she missed, he would know where she was, would turn his attention to her. And then it became a duel between two professionals, and Sarah had no guarantee she was better. But if she did nothing, Morrison died. The math was simple and terrible. Torres, I need to move. Get closer. Ma'am, if you leave this position, you lose overwatch on the compound. I know, but if that sniper kills Morrison, overwatch doesn't matter. Sarah made the decision, started moving toward the stairwell. Torres followed without argument. They descended 2 floors, moved through the building, found a position on the opposite side, closer to the enemy sniper's building. 300 meters now instead of 400. Better odds, still not good enough. Sarah settled into her new position, found the sniper through her scope. He was locked in now. Eye to his scope, finger on trigger, hunting. She had maybe 10 seconds before he fired. Torres range, 295 meters, wind 4 knots northeast, target stationary. Sarah did the math. At this range, 4-knot wind meant roughly 8 inches of drift. She dialed the adjustment into her scope. The enemy sniper's finger tightened on his trigger. Sarah fired first. The round flew true, crossed 300 meters in less than a second, found the narrow gap between the sandbags the sniper had used for cover. Found his head. He slumped forward across his rifle, dead instantly. Sarah exhaled slowly. Target down. But something was wrong. Something in what she had just seen through the scope. Torres, I need you to spot that position. Tell me what you see. Torres brought up the spotting scope, studied the dead sniper. Her voice went quiet. Ma'am, that's American gear, M40 rifle, U.S. pattern tactical vest. Sarah felt ice in her stomach. Are you sure? Positive. And Captain, I can see his arm. He has a tattoo, Ranger tab. Sarah's world tilted. An American. A Ranger. Fighting for the enemy. Or fighting for someone who wanted Morrison dead. Can you read his dog tags? Torres adjusted magnification. Affirmative. Corporal Marcus Reed, U.S. Army, Ranger Regiment. Sarah closed her eyes, opened them. Marcus Reed. She knew that name. Had trained with him at Fort Benning 3 years ago. Good shooter, solid soldier, quiet professional who did his job and went home. What was he doing in Assyria fighting against the SEAL team? Torres, document everything. Photos, video. We need proof. Yes, ma'am. While Torres photographed the body, Sarah keyed her radio. Trident 4, sniper threat eliminated. But Commander, we have a problem. What kind of problem? The sniper was one of ours. U.S. Army Ranger, Corporal Marcus Reed. Silence on the radio. Then Morrison's voice, tight with controlled fury. Confirmed? Confirmed. I trained with him. Torres is documenting now. Jesus Christ. Phoenix, what the hell is happening here? Sarah had no answer. She looked at the dead American 400 meters away. At the compound full of enemies Morrison was supposed to eliminate. At the chaos of a mission that had been wrong from the very beginning. I don't know, Commander, but this isn't what they told us it was. More silence, then finish the mission. We'll sort it out later. Copy. But Sarah knew they would not sort it out later. Knew that Corporal Reed's body would disappear. That his death would be classified. That no one would ask why an American Ranger was in Syria with a rifle pointed at a SEAL team. Some truths were too dangerous to survive contact with daylight. She pushed the thought away. Focused on what mattered now. Keeping Morrison alive. Completing the mission. Getting everyone home. Everything else could wait. Torres, status on compound. 20 hostile fighters remaining. They're regrouping. Looks like they're preparing a coordinated assault. 20 enemies. 6 defenders. Still impossible math. Sarah settled back into her rifle. Then let's make sure it stays impossible. The enemy came in waves. Sarah had seen this tactic before. Overwhelming assault. Accept casualties to achieve breakthrough. It worked against unprepared defenders. Morrison's team was not unprepared. They held the building with disciplined fire. Aim shots. Conserving ammunition. Making every round count. And Sarah played Overwatch. Eliminating anyone who got too close. Anyone who tried to flank. Anyone who posed the greatest threat. The dance of combat. The terrible choreography of violence. She fired until her barrel was hot. Until the scope showed heat shimmer. Until she had to pause and let the weapon cool before accuracy degraded. Torres fed her water, ammunition, encouragement. 22 kills, ma'am. You're at 39 total. 39 human beings who had been alive when the sun rose and would not be alive when it set. Sarah tried not to think about it. Tried to maintain the professional distance that let her do this job. They were not people. They were targets. threats, obstacles between Morrison and survival. But she had looked through her scope at their faces, had seen them as individuals before she ended them. Young men, old men, fighters who believed they were on the right side of something. She was killing them because that was what Guardians did. They chose who lived and who died, and they carried that weight forever. Her father's voice echoed from memory, words he had told her when she graduated from sniper school. The hardest part isn't pulling the trigger, Sarah. It's living with it after. She pulled the trigger again. 40. Morrison's voice. Phoenix, we're running low on ammunition. Can you suppress long enough for us to consolidate and prepare to move? How long do you need? 2 minutes. Sarah looked at her remaining ammunition. 6 magazines left, 120 rounds. She had started with 200. 2 minutes of sustained fire would drain most of that. But Morrison needed 2 minutes. Copy. Beginning suppression now. Sarah shifted from precision fire to volume fire, not taking time to confirm kills, just putting rounds downrange, making the enemy keep their heads down, making them afraid to move, to peek, to return fire. Torres spotted targets. Sarah engaged them. The rifle became an extension of her will. Point, fire, target down. Next target. She moved through a magazine in 30 seconds, reloaded without taking her eye from the scope, kept firing. The compound below became a storm of incoming precision fire. Enemies dove for cover, stayed pinned. Morrison's team used the time. They moved through the building, redistributed ammunition, set charges to blow their exit, prepared for the extraction that would either save them or kill them. Phoenix, we're set. Hold fire. We're moving in 30 seconds. Sarah stopped shooting, let her rifle cool, watched the compound. The enemy was scattered, disorganized, but still dangerous, still lethal. Morrison's voice, execute. The building Morrison's team had been defending exploded. Not the whole structure, just the lower floor. Shaped charges that brought down tons of concrete and rebar and turned the ground level into an impassable barrier. Anyone trying to follow the SEALs through that building would have to dig through rubble. Morrison's team moved through the dust and smoke, 6 shadows flowing toward the compound's north exit. Moving fast, professional, covering each other. And Cross was waiting for them. Sarah saw him through her scope, positioned on a rooftop with perfect line of sight on Morrison's escape route. He had a rifle, aimed, ready. Trident 4, you have a shooter at your 12 o'clock. Rooftop, it's Cross. Morrison's team stopped, took cover, weapons up. Sarah centered her crosshairs on Cross. 420 meters. Difficult shot, but makeable. She could end this now. One trigger pull, and the mission would be complete. The architect eliminated. Mission success. But Morrison's voice stopped her. Phoenix, hold fire. Do not engage Cross. Commander, he has a weapon on you. I know, but he hasn't fired. Hold your position. Sarah kept her crosshairs on Cross's chest. Finger on the trigger, ready to fire if he made any move towards shooting Morrison. But Cross did not fire. Instead, he lowered his weapon, raised his hand. A signal. Come forward. Talk. Morrison made a decision. Team, hold position. I'm going to talk to him. Sir, that's suicide. Maybe, but I need to understand what's happening. Phoenix, keep me covered. If Cross makes any move to shoot me, you drop him. Understood? Sarah's voice was tight. Understood. She watched through her scope as Morrison moved into the open. Hands visible. Weapon lowered but ready. Walking toward his dead friend who was somehow alive. Cross waited on the rooftop, still, patient, and Sarah kept her finger on the trigger, ready to end him if he betrayed Morrison's trust. The two men faced each other across 50 meters of rubble and ruin. Sarah could not hear their conversation, but she watched Morrison's body language, saw the shock, the disbelief, the anger. Cross was telling him something that made Morrison rigid with fury. Then Cross pointed, not at Morrison, at something else. Sarah followed the gesture, saw what Cross was indicating. A vehicle, parked at the compound's edge. SUV, black, government issue. Cross made another gesture. Check it, see for yourself. Morrison hesitated, then moved toward the vehicle. His team followed, weapons ready, expecting ambush. But no ambush came. Morrison reached the SUV, opened the door, searched inside, found something. He held it up. Even from her distance, Sarah could see what it was. A phone, satellite encrypted, the kind intelligence operatives used. Morrison studied the screen. His whole body went rigid. Then he looked up towards Sarah's position. keyed his radio. Bennett, Sarah, what are your orders for this mission? Observe and report. Provide overwatch. Engage only if you are in immediate danger. And if you eliminate the HVT, return to base for debrief. Morrison's voice was hollow. Did they tell you who the HVT was? Negative. Just that he was a high-value target coordinating attacks. Did they tell you he was CIA? Sarah's breath stopped. Say again? Cross was agency, deep cover, operating in Syria for 3 years, and someone burned him, leaked his identity, marked him for termination. Sarah felt the world tilt beneath her. Commander, that's not possible. If Cross was agency, Command would have told us. This would be an extraction, not an elimination. Would they? Think about it, Sarah. We were sent here with bad intelligence, told to expect light resistance. Instead, we walked into 50 fighters who were waiting for us. Bradley tried to kill me. An American Ranger tried to kill you. And Cross is saying this whole mission was designed to eliminate everyone who knows too much. Sarah tried to process it, tried to make sense of intelligence that did not make sense. Commander, even if that's true, we have orders. We have a mission. The mission was a lie. Sarah looked through her scope at the compound, at the bodies scattered throughout, at the dead American sniper on the rooftop, at Morrison standing beside Cross like they were teammates again. Everything was wrong. This was not counterterrorism. This was not capturing a high-value target. This was something else entirely. Her radio crackled. Different voice. Colonel Reeves. Captain Bennett. Commander Morrison. Both of you are ordered to eliminate the HVT immediately and extract. Authorization code Tango Charlie 47. Acknowledge. Tango Charlie 47. Sarah knew that code. Kill order. No prisoners, no questions. Sir, she responded carefully, requesting confirmation. Target is confirmed CIA asset. Negative. Target is enemy combatant. Eliminate immediately. Sarah looked through her scope at Cross, studied him. He was not acting like an enemy, was not shooting at Morrison, was standing there talking, explaining, trying to convince. If he was the enemy, why was he not fighting? Sir, I need clarification on target identity before I engage. Reeves's voice went hard. Captain, you have your orders. Carry them out or face court-martial. Is that clear? Sarah's finger was on the trigger. 420 meters. Easy shot. Cross was standing still. Exposed. She could end this with one bullet. Complete the mission. Save her career. Go home to Dylan. Or she could trust Morrison. Trust that something was deeply wrong. Trust that pulling this trigger would make her part of something she did not want to be part of. Phoenix, Morrison's voice. Quiet. Steady. Sarah, I know what you're thinking. I know the weight of the decision you're facing, but I need you to trust me. Cross is not the enemy. And if you pull that trigger, you're eliminating a witness to something bigger than both of us. Commander, I have orders. I know, and I'm giving you different ones. Stand down. Do not engage Cross. That's a direct order. Reeves cut in. Commander Morrison, you are relieved of command. Lieutenant Bradley has operational authority. Morrison's laugh was bitter. Bradley is dead, sir. Died trying to execute me on your orders. Silence on the radio. Long and heavy. Then Reeves again. Commander, you're making a mistake. One that will end both your careers and possibly your lives. Maybe, but I've spent 32 years following orders without question, trusting that the people giving those orders had good intentions. Hayes died in my arms an hour ago because I followed bad orders. I won't make that mistake again. Sarah kept her crosshairs on Cross, kept her finger on the trigger, torn between duty and doubt. Torres whispered beside her, Ma'am, what are you going to do? Sarah thought about Dylan, about promises to come home, about court-martial and dishonorable discharge and losing everything she had built. But she also thought about Marcus Reed, American Ranger with his rifle pointed at Americans, about Bradley executing his own commander, about intelligence that was too wrong to be accident. She thought about Morrison, who had voted against her 25 years ago because he was afraid she would die, who had trained her to be unkillable, who was asking her to trust him now when everything else was untrustworthy. Sarah made her decision. She took her finger off the trigger. Trident 4, Phoenix, standing down. Target is not engaged. Reeves's voice exploded through the radio. Captain Bennett, that is a direct violation of orders. You are hereby charged with insubordination and dereliction of duty. Military police will be waiting when you return. Yes, sir. Sarah switched off the radio. Torres stared at her. Ma'am, you just ended your career. I know. Was it worth it? Sarah looked through her scope at Morrison, at Cross, at 6 SEALs who were alive because she had broken orders. Ask me when this is over. Below, Morrison and Cross were talking. Urgent. Planning. And Sarah watched over them with her rifle ready. Not to kill Cross, but to protect them both from whatever was coming next. Because something was coming, she could feel it, the weight of consequences, the machine grinding into motion. They had gone off script, broken the plan, and now they would pay the price. Torres touched her shoulder. Captain, we should move. They're going to send someone after us. I know, pack up. We're linking with Morrison's team. Ma'am, that's not protocol. Protocol stopped mattering the moment Bradley tried to kill our own commander. We're in new territory now. We survive together or we die separately. Torres nodded, started breaking down their position. Sarah took one last look through her scope, scanned the compound, the bodies, the destruction, the evidence of a mission that had gone catastrophically wrong or catastrophically right, depending on which side of the truth you stood on. She keyed her radio one final time. Trident 4, Phoenix. Torres and I are relocating to your position, ETA 10 minutes. Morrison's response was immediate. Copy. We'll secure a perimeter. Come home, Sarah. Come home. She smiled despite everything. On our way. Sarah and Torres moved through the ruined building, down 3 flights of stairs, through corridors that smelled like cordite and blood, out into the pre-dawn darkness. They moved fast, professional, weapons ready, expecting ambush. But the compound was quiet now. The surviving enemy fighters had fled, melted into the Syrian countryside, gone to tell stories about the American sniper who had killed 40 men from the shadows. Sarah found Morrison's team at the north wall, 6 operators in defensive positions, weapons covering all approaches, and Cross standing with them, not as prisoner, as ally. Morrison stepped forward as Sarah approached. Captain. Commander. They looked at each other. 2 warriors who had just burned down everything they had built, who had chosen truth over orders, conscience over career. Morrison spoke first. Thank you for trusting me. Don't thank me yet. We still have to survive what comes next. We will, together. Cross moved forward, extended his hand to Sarah. Captain Bennett, I'm Daniel Cross. I've heard a lot about you. Sarah studied him. This ghost, this burned asset, this man whose existence had upended everything. She shook his hand. Wish I could say the same. Morrison told me you were dead. I was. For 15 years, I was dead. Sometimes I think I still am. His grip was strong, steady, the grip of someone who had survived things that should have killed him. Sarah released his hand. Morrison says you were CIA, deep cover. Is that true? Was true. Now I'm a liability, a loose end. That's why they sent you, to tie me off. And Bradley? Insurance? In case Morrison figured it out. Bradley was supposed to eliminate everyone, make it look like combat casualties. Sarah felt sick. The American sniper, Corporal Reed. He was there to kill me? Cross nodded. After you killed me. Can't have witnesses. Can't have operators who know that CIA burned its own assets and used military to clean up the mess. Why? Why burn you? Cross smiled, hard and cold. Because I learned things. Saw things. Black sites, interrogations. American citizens disappeared and tortured. I tried to report it through proper channels. That's when they decided I knew too much. Morrison added, Cross has proof, documentation, photos, names, everything needed to expose the whole operation. Sarah looked between them. And if we help him? If we go public with this? Then we're all traitors, Morrison said quietly. We're all marked for elimination. But at least the truth gets out. At least Hayes and Bradley and Reed died for something real instead of a lie. Sarah thought about Dylan, about retirement, about the life she had planned after this mission. All of it gone now, burned with everything else. But the alternative was going back, pretending she had not seen what she saw, living with the knowledge that she had been used to murder a CIA asset, that Hayes had died in a trap that was designed to eliminate witnesses. She could not live with that. She had spent 12 years as a guardian, protecting people, saving lives. She would not become an executioner for a system that murdered its own. What do we need to do? She asked. Cross answered. I have a dead drop, 200 kilometers from here. Turkey border. Everything I gathered is there. Photos, documents, testimony. We get that. We get it to journalists who can't be silenced, and we burn the whole thing down. 200 kilometers through hostile territory, with every intelligence asset in the region hunting us, with no support, no extraction, no backup. Yes, Sarah looked at Morrison. Commander? Morrison's face was grim but determined. I've spent 32 years following orders. Some good, some bad. But I always followed them because I trusted the system. Trusted that we were the good guys. Hayes died because I trusted that system. Because I walked into a trap and brought good men with me. I won't do it again. I won't let his death be for nothing. He looked at his team. 5 SEALs who were watching him, waiting for orders. Anyone who wants out, I'll arrange extract. You go back. Face whatever comes. No judgment. This is my fight. You don't have to make it yours. The youngest SEAL spoke. Petty Officer Jackson, 23 years old, fresh-faced. Commander, Hayes was my friend, my brother. If this is about making sure he mattered, then I'm in. The others nodded, one by one. Affirmative. They were in. Morrison turned back to Sarah. Captain? Sarah shouldered her rifle. 200 kilometers, let's go. Torres grinned beside her. Wouldn't miss it, ma'am. They moved out as a unit. 8 operators and 1 burned asset, moving toward Turkey, toward truth, toward whatever consequences waited at the end. Behind them, the sun began to rise over the Syrian compound, light touching the destruction, the bodies, the evidence of a battle that would never make official reports. And somewhere in an operations center far away, Colonel Reeves watched satellite feeds and made phone calls and set in motion the machinery that would hunt them. The last Guardians had gone rogue, and the system would not forgive that. Sarah moved through the desert darkness and thought about Dylan, about promises she might not keep, about coming home or not coming home. But she also thought about Hayes, about Reed, about all the men who had died tonight in a web of lies and betrayals. If she died bringing the truth to light, at least she died for something real. That was worth more than any career, worth more than any medal. It was worth everything. Morrison called a halt after 3 kilometers, found cover in a wadi, a dry riverbed that offered concealment from aerial surveillance. His team collapsed against the banks, exhausted, running on adrenaline and willpower. Cross sat apart, watching, waiting, still half stranger, half ghost. Sarah found Morrison checking his ammunition, redistributing magazines. Commander, he looked up. Sarah, how bad is this gonna get? Morrison was quiet for a long moment. Bad. Reeves will send teams after us. Delta, Rangers, maybe JSOC assets. They can't let us reach Turkey with Cross's evidence. Can we make it? I don't know. 200 kilometers through enemy territory, with friendlies hunting us. It's not good odds. But you're going anyway. I have to, for Hayes, for Emma, for every operator who trusted the system and got betrayed by it. He met her eyes. You don't have to come. You and Torres can split off. Head for Jordan. Claim you were separated. They might believe it. Sarah shook her head. No, I'm with you, whatever comes. You'll lose everything. I've already lost it. Might as well make it count. Morrison smiled, tired but real. You know, 25 years ago, I voted against you because I was afraid. Afraid you weren't strong enough. Afraid you would die and it would be my fault. I know. I was wrong about a lot of things. But mostly I was wrong about strength. You're the strongest person I know. Sarah felt something warm in her chest. You taught me well? No, you were already strong. I just gave you tools to survive. They sat in comfortable silence. 2 warriors at the end of everything, facing impossible odds, but facing them together. Torres approached. Captain, Commander, we've got movement. Helicopters inbound. 2 clicks south. Morrison stood. Everyone up. We're moving. Cross, lead the way. Cross rose. Stay close. Stay quiet. We move fast and we don't stop. They moved into the darkness. 8 shadows flowing through the desert. Hunting them were forces that would not stop, would not hesitate, would shoot to kill. The last Guardians were running now, running toward truth or death. And Sarah had a feeling they might be the same thing. But she ran anyway. Because that was what Guardians did. They carried the weight. They protected the truth. And they never stopped fighting. Not until the very end. The tunnel smelled like death and old water. Morrison led his team through darkness that was absolute. Night vision turned the world into shades of green. Concrete walls closing in, water dripping from somewhere above. The sound of 8 people breathing hard and trying to stay quiet. Cross had known about these tunnels, had mapped them during his 3 years operating in Syria. Old smuggling routes, pre-war infrastructure, the kind of escape path you prepared when you knew someday you might need to run. Today was that day. Behind them, the compound was rubble. Sarah had watched through her scope as the drone strike obliterated everything. Missiles turning buildings into craters, erasing evidence. making it look like a successful operation instead of a betrayal. Hayes's body was somewhere in that rubble. Morrison had wanted to carry him out, had stood over the kid's corpse and argued with Cross about the weight, about what it meant to leave men behind. Cross had been blunt, brutal, necessary. You carry Hayes, you slow us down. You slow down, everyone dies. Hayes is already gone. Save the ones who are still breathing. So Morrison had knelt beside the kid one last time, had taken his dog tags, had whispered something Sarah could not hear. Then he had stood and walked away and left part of himself in that compound. Sarah had seen it in his eyes, the way something broke. Something that had been holding together for 32 years finally shattered under the weight of too many losses. Now they moved through tunnels and Morrison was silent. His team followed him because that was what SEALs did. But Sarah could see the cracks spreading. They emerged 3 kilometers from the compound. Desert scrubland, no cover, exposed to satellite surveillance and thermal imaging, and all the technological superiority that made being hunted by the United States military a death sentence. Cross led them to a wadi, dry riverbed offering concealment from aerial observation. Morrison called a halt. His team collapsed, exhausted, operating on fumes and training and the knowledge that stopping meant dying. Sarah sat beside Torres. Her spotter's face was grim. "Ma'am, we're not going to make it, are we?" Sarah wanted to lie, wanted to offer false hope, but Torres deserved better. Probably not. 200 kilometers through hostile territory, with Delta Force hunting us, with drones overhead. The math is bad. Then why are we doing this? Because Hayes deserves better than being a footnote in a classified report. Because Reed and Bradley deserve to have their deaths mean something. Because if we don't fight, they win. Torres nodded slowly. My mom always said I was too stubborn to know when to quit. Mine too. They sat in silence, 2 women who had chosen an impossible fight because it was the right one. Morrison approached, sat down heavily beside them. He looked old suddenly. The kind of old that came from carrying weight that was finally too much. "Sarah, Maria, I want to say something." They waited. "I'm sorry for bringing you into this, for asking you to throw away your careers, your futures, everything." Sarah shook her head. "You didn't ask. I chose." "Did you, or did I put you in a position where you had no choice?" "Commander," Sarah's voice was firm, "I'm 35 years old. I've been making my own choices for a long time. This was mine. Don't take that away from me." Morrison met her eyes. Something passed between them. Understanding, respect. The bond of people who had chosen the hard path together. "Thank you," he said quietly. "Don't thank me yet. We still have to survive." Cross joined them, handed out water bottles and energy bars from a cache he had hidden. "We rest for 30 minutes. Then we move. We have a long walk." Morrison looked at the burned operative, his old friend who had become a stranger and was becoming a friend again. "Daniel, tell me what happened in Afghanistan when you died." Cross was quiet for a long moment. Then he began to speak. "You remember that village we hit in 2009? The one intelligence said was Taliban command and control?" Morrison nodded. "I remember. We lost you there." "It wasn't Taliban. It was CIA. Black site, off the books. They were holding prisoners, not insurgents, American citizens, people who had been disappeared for asking the wrong questions or knowing the wrong things." Sarah felt ice in her stomach. "That's impossible." "Is it? Look at what's happening right now. Look at how easily they sent an 8-man SEAL team into an ambush. How easily they designated an American operator for elimination." Cross continued. "I saw things in that site, interrogations, torture, men who had been there for years with no trial, no charges, just locked in cells and broken piece by piece. I tried to report it through proper channels. Went to my handler, told him what I found. He told me to stand down, told me it was above my clearance level, told me to forget what I saw. I couldn't forget, so I gathered evidence, photos, documents, names. I was going to bring it to Congress, to journalists, somewhere it couldn't be buried. That's when they burned me, leaked my cover, set up an ambush that was supposed to kill me and eliminate the evidence. Jake, you remember that firefight? How it felt wrong? How the enemy knew exactly where we would be?" Morrison's face was stone. "They set us up." "Yes, they were trying to kill me and make it look like combat. You got separated, I got hit, went down hard, I thought I was dead. But local fighters found me, patched me up. I was delirious, half gone. When I finally came around, weeks later, I was across the border. No ID, no way to contact home. and I realized if I surfaced, they would finish the job. So I stayed dead, learned Arabic, grew a beard, became someone else, and I kept gathering evidence. For 15 years, I gathered evidence, waiting for the day when I could bring it home and expose what they did. Morrison's voice was hollow. Why didn't you contact me? Let me know you were alive. Because, Jake, you're the most by-the-book operator I ever knew. If I told you what I found, you would have reported it, and they would have killed you just like they tried to kill me. I was protecting you. By staying dead, I kept you alive. Sarah watched Morrison absorb this, watched him process 15 years of grief that had been unnecessary, 15 years of guilt for a death that had not happened. Daniel, Morrison said finally, I mourned you, carried you. Your name is on the wall at Bragg. You have a star at Langley. Your family thinks you're dead. I know, and I'm sorry, but if I had surfaced, I would be dead, really dead, and everyone who knew the truth would be dead with me. Silence fell over the group, heavy and profound. Then Morrison spoke. We're going to fix this. We're going to get your evidence. We're going to expose everyone who did this. And then you're going back to your family. You're going home. Cross smiled, sad and broken. I don't have a home anymore, brother, but I appreciate the thought. Everyone has a home. Sometimes you just have to fight to get back to it. They rested, 30 minutes that felt like 30 seconds. Then Cross stood. Time to move. We're burning darkness. Once the sun comes up, drones will find us. They moved out. 8 operators and 1 ghost. Moving through terrain that wanted them dead. Hunting them were forces that would not stop, would not hesitate, would show no mercy. But they moved anyway, because Guardians did not quit. Not until the very end, 72 hours. That was how long they walked through Syria, through borderlands where government control was theoretical and reality was controlled by whoever had the most guns. They moved at night, hid during the day, drank from streams that might be contaminated, ate protein bars that tasted like cardboard in survival. Morrison counted his team like a miser counting coins. 6 SEALs, Sarah, Torres, Cross, 9 people who had become his responsibility, his burden. The weight was crushing. On the second day, they had their first contact with pursuers, helicopters, 2 Black Hawks flying search patterns, American birds, American pilots, looking for American operators who had gone rogue. Morrison watched them through binoculars from a hide position under rock overhang. So close he could see the door gunners scanning the terrain, could see the thermal imaging pods sweeping back and forth. They stayed absolutely still, minimizing heat signature, hiding from technology that was designed to find people who did not want to be found. The helicopters passed overhead, circled, came back. Morrison's hand went to his rifle. If they were spotted, he would have to shoot, would have to fire on his own people to save his team. He prayed it would not come to that. The helicopters moved on, continued their search pattern toward the east. Sarah exhaled slowly beside him. That was too close. They'll be back. Reeves won't stop until we're dead. Then we don't give him the chance. They moved on. Always forward, always toward Turkey, toward the border that represented salvation or damnation depending on whether they made it alive. On the third night, Cross led them to a village, small, remote. He knew people there, contacts from his years operating in country. They were fed, given water, given a few hours of sleep in a barn that smelled like goats and hay. Morrison could not sleep. He sat outside watching the stars, thinking about Hayes, about Emma, about Catherine, who had died while he was deployed and buried while he was in another country fighting someone else's war. Sarah found him there. Can't sleep either? She asked. Sleep feels like a luxury I don't deserve. Hayes? Morrison nodded. I keep seeing his face, keep hearing him ask me to tell his wife, tell his baby, and I don't know what to tell them. How do I explain that he died because I walked him into a trap? You didn't know. I should have. I've been doing this for 32 years. Should have seen the signs. Should have questioned the intelligence. Should have protected him. Sarah sat beside him. Commander, Jake, you can't protect everyone. Sometimes people die no matter how hard we try to save them. Is that supposed to make me feel better? No, it's supposed to remind you that you're human, that you did everything you could, that Hayes' death is not your fault. Morrison was quiet for a long time then. When I was 12, my father told me something. Right before he died, he said that Guardians carry every life they save and every life they take, that the weight never gets lighter. You just get stronger or you break. I think I'm breaking, Sarah. I think 32 years of weight is finally too much. Sarah took his hand. The gesture was simple, profound. Then let me help carry it. That's what teammates do. We share the load. Morrison looked at her. This woman he had wronged 25 years ago, who had forgiven him, who had thrown away her career to save his life, who was sitting beside him in a Syrian village in the middle of a nightmare offering to share his burden. Thank you, he whispered. Don't thank me. Just promise me something. Anything. When this is over, if we survive, you go home to Emma. You be a father. You stop carrying everyone else and start taking care of yourself. Morrison smiled despite everything. I'll try. Good. Because she needs you and you need her, and neither of you needs the Navy anymore. They sat together watching the stars until Cross came to get them. Time to move. Always moving. Always running. Always one step ahead of the forces that wanted them dead. The border was 50 kilometers away when they hit the ambush. Not Syrian fighters, not local militia. American Special Forces, Delta operators. 25 of them in full combat gear with thermal imaging and night vision and all the advantages that made this a slaughter waiting to happen. Morrison's team was pinned, trapped in a valley with high ground on both sides and Delta occupying the advantageous positions. Sarah found cover behind a boulder, set up her rifle, started engaging targets. But 25 against 9 was math that did not work, no matter how good she was. Commander, Torres yelled, we're surrounded. Morrison knew it, could see the positions, could see how this ended. They could fight, could take some of the enemy with them. But they would die here in this valley in Syria, and no one would ever know why. Hayes's death would be meaningless. Cross's evidence would die with them. The truth would stay buried. Unless, Morrison stood, hands up, weapon lowered. Cease fire! Cease fire! His team stopped shooting. Confused, Delta operators held fire but kept weapons trained. Morrison walked into the open, unarmed, exposed, addressing the Delta commander who was somewhere in the darkness. I'm Commander Jacob Morrison, SEAL Team 7, 32 years of service. If you're going to kill me, do it. But know you're killing the truth. Silence. Then a voice from the high ground. Commander Morrison, this is Major Robert Chen. You and your team are designated hostile. Surrender or be terminated. Morrison's blood went cold. Chen, that name. Major Chen, did you have a brother, David Chen? Pause. How do you know my brother? He served with Captain Bennett, died in Afghanistan under my command. I carry his memory. Sarah stepped forward beside Morrison, into the open, hands visible. Major Chen, David was my mentor. He died because someone gave orders that prevented me from saving him. Tonight I broke orders to save Commander Morrison. I won't watch good men die anymore. Silence stretched, long and terrible. Then Major Chen stepped into view. 40 years old, Ranger tab, Delta patch, face that looked like David's. Same eyes, same bearing. He studied Morrison and Sarah. His rifle was up but not quite aimed. My brother wrote me letters from Afghanistan. His last one said he was watching something wrong. Wanted to report it. He died before he could. They said combat death. I never believed it. Morrison's heart hammered. Your brother died because he learned the truth. Same truth we're carrying. Same truth that will die if you follow your orders and kill us. Chen was silent. Then he lowered his rifle, slightly. What truth? Cross stepped forward. The truth that CIA runs black sites where American citizens are disappeared. The truth that operators who learn too much are eliminated. The truth that your brother was murdered because he could not keep quiet. That's insane. Is it? You have orders to kill a SEAL commander and a JSOC captain. No trial, no hearing, just terminate. Does that sound like justice to you, Major? Chen looked at his team, 24 Delta operators watching, waiting for orders, trained to follow commands without question. Just like Morrison had followed commands for 32 years. Chen made his decision. Stand down. We're letting them pass. Sir, one of his operators stepped forward. We have orders, and I'm giving different ones. These people are not the enemy. Colonel Reeves will have your head. Let him. My brother died asking questions. I won't kill people for doing the same thing. Chen looked at Morrison. You have 12 hours before I report position. Use them. Get across the border. Get your evidence out. Make sure my brother's death meant something. Morrison saluted, sharp and proper. Thank you, Major. Your brother would be proud. Chen returned the salute. I hope so. Now go, before I change my mind. Morrison's team moved quickly. Through the valley, past Delta operators who turned their backs and saw nothing. Men choosing conscience over orders. Sarah paused beside Major Chen. Your brother saved my life once, in training. Told me that being a guardian meant knowing when to break the rules. He was right. Chen nodded. Take care of Commander Morrison. He looks like he needs it. I will. They disappeared into the darkness. 9 shadows moving toward Turkey, toward safety, toward whatever came next. Behind them, Major Chen watched them go. Then he picked up his radio and made the call that would end his career. But his conscience was clean. Sometimes that was worth everything. The safe house in Turkey was exactly what Cross had promised. Remote, secure, stocked with supplies and communications equipment. Cross went immediately to the false wall in the back room, opened it, retrieved a waterproof case that contained 15 years of evidence. Morrison watched him lay it out on the table. Photographs, documents, testimony, names and dates and locations. Everything needed to expose the entire operation. This is it, Cross said quietly. This is what I've been carrying for 15 years, what I've been waiting to bring home. Sarah studied the evidence. Her face went pale. My God, how many people? That we know of, 47 American citizens disappeared into black sites. No charges, no trials, just gone. Some for years, some dead now, tortured until they broke or died or both. Morrison felt sick. And the operators who found out? 14, mostly CIA, some military, all designated for elimination, all killed in ways that looked like combat or accident or suicide. David Chen was one of them, Sarah said quietly. Yes, he found a site in Afghanistan, tried to report it. They staged an ambush, made it look like Taliban. Bennett, you were there. You had orders not to engage. Those orders came from someone who wanted Chen dead. Sarah sat down heavily. I watched him die. Watched him bleed out while I had a rifle and rounds and could have saved him. And I followed orders. You didn't know. I should have. Should have questioned. Should have trusted my instinct that something was wrong. Morrison put a hand on her shoulder. We all should have questioned. That's why we're here now. That's why we're going to make sure this never happens again. Cross began setting up the satellite communications equipment. I have contacts, journalists who've been investigating this for years. They're ready to publish. They just need the evidence. How long until you can transmit? 30 minutes to establish connection. Then however long it takes to upload everything. Maybe an hour. Morrison checked his watch. Chen gave us 12 hours. We have 8 left. That's enough time, barely. Sarah moved to the window. Watch the pre-dawn darkness. They'll come for us when they realize what we're doing. They'll send everything. I know. Torres, I need you to set up perimeter security. Tripwires, early warning. Anything that gives us time. On it, Captain. Morrison's remaining SEALs took up defensive positions. Windows, doors, approaches. They moved with the efficiency of men who had done this 1,000 times. But there were only 5 of them, against whatever Reeves would send. The math was bad. Cross got the satellite connection established. Started uploading files. Progress bar crawled across the screen. 10%, 15%. How much longer? Morrison asked. 40 minutes, maybe less. We don't have 40 minutes. As if summoning it with his words, Torres's voice came over the radio. Commander, we have movement. 3 vehicles inbound, 2 clicks out and closing fast. Morrison moved to the window, saw headlights in the distance, coming toward the safe house with purpose. How many? At least 12 hostiles, could be more. Morrison looked at his team. 5 SEALs, Sarah, Torres, Cross, 8 operators against 12 or more attackers. And they had to hold for 40 minutes while the evidence uploaded. Everyone to defensive positions. We hold this house until the upload completes, no matter what. His team moved to their positions without question. Professional, disciplined, ready to die if necessary. Sarah set up her rifle at an upper window. Long-range position. She would thin the attackers before they reached the house. Morrison took position at the front door. His SEALs covered the windows and rear entrance. Cross continued working the upload. 20%, 25%. The vehicles came closer, stopped 500 meters out. Men piled out, not Syrian fighters, not local militia. American. Morrison recognized the unit patches through his scope. CIA Special Activities Division. The cleaners. The ones who eliminated problems. Reeves had sent the professionals. One of them raised a megaphone. Commander Morrison, Captain Bennett, you are ordered to cease operations and surrender immediately. This is your only warning. Morrison keyed his radio. Phoenix, can you identify the speaker? Sarah's voice came back. Got him. Range 515 meters. Clean shot. Hold fire. Maybe we can talk this down. Morrison moved to the door, opened it slightly. We're transmitting evidence to journalists. In 30 minutes, the truth goes public. Stand down and let us finish." The CIA operator laughed, hard and bitter. "Commander, you think we're going to let that happen? Those files die today, and so do you. We're American operators. You're planning to murder your own people. You stopped being our people when you went rogue. Now you're just targets." The operator raised his hand, signaled to advance. Morrison slammed the door. "They're coming. Defensive fire only. Make every round count." Sarah fired first. Her rifle spoke from the upper window. The CIA operator who had been giving orders dropped. The others scattered, seeking cover, realizing they were facing real opposition. Sarah worked through targets with mechanical precision. 500 meters, 400, 300, each round finding flesh, each shot buying seconds of time. The CIA team returned fire, automatic weapons stitching the safe house with holes. Windows shattered, concrete cracked, but Morrison's team held. Cross called out progress. 30% uploaded, need 20 more minutes. 20 minutes. Morrison looked at his ammunition, at his team, at the forces outside. They would not last 20 minutes. Not against a full SAD team with air support probably inbound. But they would last as long as they could. He fired through a window, dropped a CIA operator who was advancing, chambered another round, fired again. Beside him, Petty Officer Jackson took a round to the shoulder, went down cursing. "Jackson!" "I'm good, Commander. Just hurts like hell." The kid kept fighting, blood streaming down his arm, firing his rifle one-handed because he refused to stop. Morrison had never been more proud of his team. The firefight intensified. CIA operators pushed closer, trying to breach the house, trying to stop the upload before it completed. Sarah ran out of ammunition, switched to her sidearm, started engaging at close range. Torres beside her. Two women holding the upper floor against impossible odds. Cross called out. 50%, 10 more minutes. 10 minutes that felt like 10 hours. Morrison was down to his last magazine when he heard it. The sound he had been dreading. Helicopters, not Blackhawks this time. Apaches. Attack helicopters with cannons that could shred the safe house in seconds. "Everyone down, gunships inbound." The first Apache made his gun run. 30mm cannon tearing through the building. Walls exploded. Ceiling collapsed. Morrison threw himself over Cross, protecting the laptop, protecting the evidence that was still uploading. The building shook. Dust and debris filled the air. Someone was screaming. Morrison could not tell who. When the gunship passed, Morrison looked around. His team was battered but alive, bleeding but fighting. "Status? Torres is hit." Sarah's voice strained. "Shrapnel to the leg. She's still in the fight." "Cross, how much longer?" 70%. 5 minutes. 5 minutes. The Apache was circling for another run. The CIA operators were regrouping, and Morrison's team was out of ammunition and miracles. This was how it ended, in a Turkish safe house, fighting to the last round, to the last breath, to the last second of upload time. Morrison thought about Hayes, about Emma, about 32 years of service leading to this moment. He had no regrets. If this was how he went out, at least he went out fighting for something real. The Apache lined up for its second run. Morrison stood, raised his rifle, knowing it was useless, knowing he could not stop a gunship with a rifle, but refusing to die on his knees. The Apache opened fire, and then something impossible happened. A missile streaked from the darkness, hit the Apache's tail rotor. The gunship spun, crashed in a fireball 200 meters away. Morrison stared. "What the hell?" Another missile. The second Apache exploded. From the darkness came vehicles. Turkish military, coalition forces, friendly. Major Chen's voice came over the radio. "Commander Morrison, I hope you appreciate that I just committed treason by calling in Turkish support. You owe me a beer." Morrison laughed, half hysterical. "Chen, you magnificent bastard, I owe you a case." The Turkish forces engaged the CIA operators, suppressing fire that drove them back, giving Morrison's team breathing room. Cross called out. 95%, almost there. Morrison watched the progress bar crawl. 96, 97, 98, 99, 100%. Upload complete. Cross shut the laptop. "It's done. The evidence is out. Multiple journalists, multiple countries. They can't bury it now." Morrison sank to his knees, overwhelmed. They had done it, against impossible odds, against the full weight of the intelligence apparatus. They had gotten the truth out. Hayes had not died for nothing. Sarah appeared beside him, bloodied, exhausted, alive. "We did it," she whispered. "Yeah, we did." Turkish soldiers entered the safe house, securing the area, providing medical care. One of them approached Morrison. "Commander Morrison, we have orders to escort you to Incirlik Air Base. You'll be safe there until this is sorted out." Morrison stood, helped Sarah to her feet. "My team? All alive, some wounded, but alive." Morrison looked at his 5 SEALs, at Torres being treated by a medic, at Cross sitting against a wall looking like the weight had finally lifted. They had survived. Against all odds, against all logic, against everything. They had survived and told the truth and changed everything. Morrison thought about his father, about the bronze star in his pocket, about the weight of being a guardian. The weight was still there, would always be there. But for the first time in 32 years, it felt bearable. 6 months later, congressional hearing room, cameras everywhere, the glare of public attention. Morrison sat at the witness table in his dress blues, rows of ribbons on his chest. 32 years of service, reduced to colored cloth and metal. Beside him sat Sarah, also in uniform, also decorated, also about to testify about things that would end careers and start investigations and change everything. The chairman of the Senate Armed Services Committee banged his gavel. "This hearing is now in session. Commander Morrison, Captain Bennett, you've been granted immunity in exchange for your testimony. Are you prepared to proceed?" Morrison leaned toward the microphone. "Yes, Senator." "Then please describe the events that led to your unauthorized action in Syria." Morrison told them everything: the ambush, Hayes' death, Bradley's betrayal, Cross's revelation, the evidence of black sites and disappeared citizens and murdered operators. He spoke for 2 hours, answering questions, providing documentation, exposing the rot that had infected the system he had served. When he finished, the room was silent. The senator spoke. "Commander Morrison, what you've described is a systematic violation of constitutional rights in military law. If true, it represents one of the most serious intelligence failures in American history." "It's true, Senator, every word." "And you were willing to sacrifice your career to expose it?" Morrison thought about Hayes, about David Chen, about all the operators who had died asking questions. "Senator, my career is nothing compared to the lives that were destroyed. If ending my career means this never happens again, it's worth it." The senator nodded slowly. "Thank you, Commander." "Captain Bennett, do you have anything to add?" Sarah leaned forward. "Only this, Senator. Commander Morrison saved my career 25 years ago by training me to be unkillable. I returned the favor by helping him expose the truth. I have no regrets." The hearing continued for weeks, investigation after investigation, indictments handed down. 14 senior CIA officials charged, restructuring of oversight committees, new protocols for black sites and extraordinary rendition. The machine ground slowly, but it ground, and Morrison and Sarah were cleared of all charges, reinstated with honors, given medals they would never wear publicly because the operations remained classified. But they were free, finally free. Morrison's retirement ceremony was held at Fort Bragg. Admiral pinning the Navy Cross on his chest, citation reading, extraordinary heroism in the face of corruption. But when the ceremony ended, Morrison took the medal off, walked to where Hayes' widow stood with her infant daughter. "Mrs. Hayes, your husband earned this more than I did. He died protecting the truth. He died protecting me." He placed the Navy Cross in the baby's hands. "Her name is Emma, after your daughter." Morrison's eyes filled with tears. "Your husband was the best of us. I'm sorry I couldn't bring him home." Mrs. Hayes took his hand. "You brought home the truth. That's what Ryan would have wanted. Thank you, Commander, for making his death mean something." Morrison saluted, sharp and proper, the last salute of his career. Then he walked away from Fort Bragg for the final time. Sarah's ceremony was the same day, Silver Star for valor. But like Morrison, she gave her medal away. To Major Chen, David's brother. "Your brother saved my life by teaching me to question orders. I'm sorry I didn't question them soon enough to save him." Chen took the medal. "He would have been proud of you, Captain, of all of you." Sarah nodded. "Take care of yourself, Major." "You too, and Captain, enjoy retirement. You've earned it." 2 weeks later, Morrison stood at the edge of a lake in North Carolina, fishing rod in hand, Emma beside him, 26 years old and finally getting the time with her father she had always wanted. "Dad, you've been staring at that water for 20 minutes. Are you actually going to fish or just stand there?" Morrison smiled. "Just enjoying the moment, sweetheart. You know Mom would be proud of you for finally coming home." "I know, I just wish I had done it sooner." "You're here now. That's what matters." They fished in comfortable silence. Father and daughter, finally together, finally at peace. Morrison thought about the weight. About 32 years of carrying lives, 96 men saved, 16 lost. The weight was still there, would always be there. But Emma's presence made it lighter, made it bearable. This was what his father had meant. About learning to carry the weight without being crushed by it. About finding balance, about being human instead of just being a warrior. Morrison cast his line into the water and felt something inside him finally settle. He was home, really home, for the first time in 32 years. Sarah's homecoming was different but equally profound. Her ex-husband Mark met her at the airport. Dylan between them, 8 years old and bouncing with excitement. Mom, you're really home." Sarah dropped to her knees, hugged her son so tight he squeaked. "I'm really home, baby, for good this time. No more missions? No more missions. Just you and me and baseball games and parent-teacher conferences and all the normal stuff." Dylan pulled back, looked at her seriously. "You were a hero, right? They said on the news you were a hero." Sarah thought about all the people she had killed, all the choices she had made, all the weight she carried. "I was a soldier, Dylan, and soldiers do what needs doing, but I'm not a soldier anymore. Now I'm just your mom." "That's even better." Mark spoke quietly. "Sarah, thank you for coming home. He needs you." "I know, I needed him too. Took me too long to figure that out." They drove home together, to a small house in North Carolina where Sarah would learn to be a civilian again, where she would learn to be a mother, where she would carry the weight of what she had done but balance it with the tune of what she had now. It was enough, more than enough. 1 year later, Morrison got a call. Sarah's voice. "Jake, turn on the news." He did. Saw the breaking story. Congressional investigation complete. Indictments finalized. 14 CIA officials convicted. Black sites shut down. 47 disappeared Americans accounted for. Some returned to families, some buried with honors. David Chen's name cleared, recognized as a whistleblower instead of a casualty. His family given closure. Hayes' death investigated. Bradley's betrayal exposed. Reed's defection explained. The truth, all of it, in the light. Morrison watched and felt tears on his face. "We did it, Sarah. We actually did it." "Yeah, we did. How does it feel?" "Heavy, light, I don't know. Different." "Good different." Morrison thought about it. About Hayes. About the weight. About Emma fishing beside him yesterday. About coming home every night instead of deploying to places whose names he could not speak. "Yeah, good different." "I'm glad. You deserve peace, Jake. So do you." "I'm finding it. Slowly." "Dylan helps. Being here helps. Not carrying a rifle helps." Morrison smiled. "I'll drink to that." They talked for a while longer. Two warriors who had burned down their careers to expose the truth. Who had survived against impossible odds. Who had learned that sometimes being a guardian meant standing against the very system you served. When the call ended, Morrison walked outside. Found Emma reading on the porch. "Was that Captain Bennett?" "Yeah. The investigation results are in. Everyone's been convicted." "Good. Hayes' baby will grow up knowing her father was a hero." "She will." Emma set down her book. "Dad, are you happy? Really happy?" Morrison thought about it. About the weight that would never fully disappear. About the memories that would always be there. About the cost of 32 years in service. But he also thought about this moment. This porch. This daughter. This peace. "Yes," he said finally. "I'm happy. For the first time in a very long time." Emma smiled. "Good, because you deserve it." Morrison sat beside her, looked out at the lake, at the life he had built after walking away from war. The weight was still there, would always be there, but he had learned to carry it, not alone, not crushed beneath it, but balanced, shared, manageable. He thought about his father, about the Bronze Star, about the burden of being a guardian. And he understood, finally, what his father had been trying to tell him. The weight was the proof that you cared, that you had tried, that you had stood between innocent people and harm. The weight was not punishment, it was honor. And carrying it with grace was the greatest service of all. Morrison closed his eyes and let the sun warm his face. He was home. He was at peace. He was finally free. The last guardian had set down his rifle, but he had never set down his honor, and that made all the difference. The end.